Ladies and gentlemen, welcome back. Happy 2021 to you. If we take a look around real quick, you'll notice there is plenty of snow. And plenty of snow means it's the 2021 build season. So we are going to get building on the Miata very shortly with some new upgrades. But before the actual building season comes the cleaning season. So we have to clean up our workspace, our tools, and then we can go ahead and start wrenching on this thing. So why are we cleaning before we're building? Well, if your tools are loved just like mine, they've got a fair amount of character added to their surface. Grease, grime, whatever. Doesn't really seem like a big deal until you put, 30, 40 pounds behind it, slips, you bust your knuckles. So our goal is to clean things up so we don't injure ourselves later. So we're going to be using Super Clean, who have sent me a bottle of this amazing shirt. So I'm going to give you a review on does it work or does it not work in cleaning off your tools. That's what you can kind of make out where it says IIT right here. Let's see how this one works. In full disclosure, my special lady friend, we've been together for a while, and all that time she has said I have never successfully cleaned anything to her standards. However, her standards are just too high. But if we can take a look here, I would say that with minimal effort and absolutely no skills, this Super Clean stuff is working extremely well. That's just a single pass, ladies and gentlemen. So I think we've got ourselves a big winner here with Super Clean. Check it out. My Super Clean shirt matches my car color. So that's pretty sweet. So, build season's here. We got clean tools. We are ready to get building. But remember, ladies and gentlemen, you don't just build stuff like engines and suspensions and all that stuff just for kicks and giggles unless you're filthy rich. So we are building this season to beat some people. Specifically, this guy right here. Zach Jobe, public enemy number one. May also actually be the Game of Thrones Night King. Have not seen them both in the same place, but you're not fooling anyone, Mr. Jobe. So, just a little more background. He also has a mustache, which you can interpret in any way you want, but he has been spending a lot of money trying to make his Miata faster than mine. You can find his channel on Donut Media, where he runs a show, again, called Money Pit, where he has been slowly upgrading his Miata by ripping off all the videos and DIY tutorials on how to upgrade your Miata into a monster. So, you can go find all those things, and if you need them to fall asleep, great, have fun with that. Or you can go, to this channel and look at all the other cool things that you can also do with almost no production costs that you can still use to make your Miata a better car. So, Zach Jobe, this one is for you. All right, Mr. Blue Eyes, Zach Jobe, what does that mean for you? Well, it means I eat donuts with sprinkles for breakfast. So this summer, I'm going to be driving this Miata from Chicago, road trip it to Willow Springs to show you how to efficiently spend money and still run a sub 150 lap at Willow Springs Raceway. Also, Randy Popes was going to crush me in every single way, so you seem like someone easy to pick on. So please don't stop making content because it's great. Otherwise, let me show you how we're going to get started with our goal with our brand new super cleaned tools. So what is the first thing that we're going to use our new clean tools to build? We're doing a Torsen swap, ladies and gentlemen. So make sure you can see from side to side with your differential like this. That means you have yourself a Torsen. Also, please make sure to get 2 of these axle nuts because everything I read online, nothing said anything about it. So if you're doing the 1.6 to 1.8 Torsen, go ahead and grab a pair. And begin by, of course, jacking up your car and then making sure that it is safely on the jack stand by doing the good old shake test. Because again, the worst thing to do since you're under the car, even though Miatas are lightweight, they're not that light where you could bench press them off yourself. Safety first. After that, please put the emergency brake on. When you're doing the swap, you're going to have to remove the axles and the differential themselves and the drive shaft if you're doing the 1.6 to 1.8. Now we're taking a look here. That is the actual arm for the differential itself, which we'll get to later. First thing to do though is disconnect the drive shaft itself. You can also have an existential crisis like me and forget which way you gotta go to loosen the bolts. So please make sure you know that. Otherwise, once you have a bolt loosened, go ahead, let the e-brake down, spin the drive shaft to a new bolt, put the e-brake up, and repeat the process. Once you've repeated the process 4 times, you can go ahead and disconnect the drive shaft from the actual differential and set it to the side if it's a 1.8 swap, or go ahead and remove it fully if it's a 1.6 to 1.8. Afterwards, e-brake on, break the nuts loose off of your tire, take the tires off again on both sides. One tip that I learned from my dad is to put down the tires and then put all of your lug nuts in each lug nut spot so that you don't misplace them for later. After you've done that, you can feel free to go ahead and take off, or begin to take off, the axle nut. Now you'll notice you will have to go ahead and bang out the indentation. That's kind of like a safety indentation, so grab some sort of chisel and go ahead, go to town, get out some frustrations from 2020 and push that little part of the axle nut out. Now, one other thing, those axle nuts are on there with 170 foot-pounds of torque, so you're gonna need a large breaker bar to get those freed up. And I slide my breaker bar over my already breaker bar here, and you'll notice that the entire disc begins to spin because there's so much torque that's overcoming the friction from the brake pads, even with the e-brake on. So we're gonna go to plan B, which is, a little bit more fun, not gonna lie. You get to break out your good old impact gun. So this is my quarter cable one. It is not a pneumatic one, it is an electric one, but it works fine. So give it a couple of and boom, like magic, it's good to go. Again, make sure you're repeating both things on both sides. So once it's off, we're going to free this thing up from some of the wishbone parts. So we're going to remove the top nut as well as the bottom one, just loosen it up so we can fold the entire hub down. The reason we want to fold the hub down is so that we can remove the actual axle itself. Otherwise, the only way to do it is to cut it out, and I didn't want to do that. So went ahead and just, what's the old saying? Beat it and heat it. So I tried to beat it, that didn't work. I tried to heat it, and then that didn't work. So I went with a puller, that also didn't work. So I went back to stage 1, which is hit it with something harder. So I grabbed a solid hammer and went to town, and that seemed to go just fine. Once that's done, go back underneath and remove the nuts that keep the axle attached to the half stub, I think it's called, of the differential itself, and you can remove those, all 4 of them on each side. Once that's done, just give it a little tug there, and then with a little bit of extra love, they'll pop right off and you can remove it, and your axle is out of the way. Underneath, there are 2 bolts that go from your PPF all the way to the top side through the differential. You'll have to crack both of those loose. Doesn't matter which one you do first, to be honest with you. Once you have removed them, you actually need to go back in and tighten them back up because there's a nut on top that you need to break loose. So go in there, retighten them, and then bang them out real hard. These are the nuts. On the left hand side is the actual bottom of the nut, and the right hand side, those are the tops that are stuck in the PPF that you need to bang out. After that, there is one more bushing that you're going to have to remove. Mine was stuck on there, and this was honestly the hardest part, so I beat it, and I ended up having to use a small saw to cut through it to break the bond it had formed. Otherwise, last but not least, are the 2 axle carriers on each side. You'll remove those. Start with the smaller bolts, and then when you start to go and remove the bigger bolts, please put a jack stand underneath so that the differential, which weighs like 50 pounds, doesn't crush you. Unfortunately, as I was doing that, my GoPro died. I got a new GoPro, and I'm still figuring out the settings, which is why you got this weird fisheye. It died, but the differential did indeed come out. Yeah, that looks pretty good now. I think definitely would recommend it. Besides all the scrapes and cuts I put on this thing, I mean, it is definitely cleaned up and no problems at all. Would recommend spraying on a cloth first, and just take a look at this thing. Now, to be fair, someone was on there before, but it removed a ton of grease. So I think the super clean thing is here to stay.